Monster on the beat, ho, beat, bone, beat, rap, nigga, he a freak, throw, man down, ambulance, tell him, please, bro,
I tried to practice my West Coast dance earlier with my friend and it didn't go so well, so yeah. Anyway, let me short people real good. How y'all feeling tonight? Okay. Alright. Elle a les cheveux crépus. This sentence forever changed my life. Have you ever been in an environment where everyone turned on you? Not because you did something wrong, not because you harmed anyone, but because your sheer existence made them feel uncomfortable. Because your integrity challenged their status quo. This is the experience of the everyday Black woman. At the tender age of 6.5 years old, standing in the recess line with my red and white pleated uniform, I heard Casson, my classmate with fair-skinned complexion, in long tresses scream and cackle. Elle a les cheveux crépus. As she harshly touched my braid and pushed it down my shoulder, I didn't understand. We had the same hair type. My body froze in shock on knowing what deserved this reaction. As a quiet girl in ZZM, which is the equivalent of second grade, I stayed to myself a lot and often waited till recess to talk and laugh with my friends and talk about the latest cartoons. I was brought up in a very disciplined household where we were taught that if it would be worse for you at home than in school if you ever misbehaved in class. Little did I know that day there would be no recess for me. After Casson had pushed my hair down, not giving me a chance to speak up for myself, she summoned the teacher and convinced her I had said laboratoire, implying that I had used a metaphor for a bad word. How did laboratoire mean caca? Well, who knows? But the teacher told me I was in suspension, meaning I would skip lunch and sit in class without giving me a chance to defend myself. As a 6.5-year-old, my power was taken away from me. But why? Well, you're probably wondering the same thing. My friend Gabrielle, who was one of the most popular girls in school, her and her sisters were light-skinned, straight hair in Haiti. I grew up in Haiti, y'all. A group of girls in class created a group and decided to make her president of the group. Only a few people were accepted, you had to look a certain way, and if you're unclear, I'm actually talking about colorism right now. But why was I in this group if I didn't fit the description? Well, Gabrielle and I were close because our parents met at work. Both of our moms and dads were working in Teleco, so sometimes we would ride to school together or see each other in passing on our way there. So she could have put a good word in for me. But Christele, as a 6.5-year-old, didn't talk much. She only had one best friend. Her name was Quintessa. Quintessa is a tall, skinny, lighter complexion than Christele. She wasn't allowed in the group, but Christele was. To be in this group, you weren't allowed to talk to anyone outside of the group. But that didn't sit well with me. I would still talk to my best friend because, well, Casson and her crew snitched on me. And I was summoned into a conversation where I had to make a hard decision. I was summoned not to talk to Gladys any longer. So guess what I did? If you know me, you probably know what I did. I still talk to my friend because she's my best friend.
No, that's right.
I know, right? But little did I know, Gladys, I was drafted into this club and no one was allowed to talk to me whether you were in a group or not. Gladys in the morning with twice in me, you know how we do the neck roll and the eyes swelling and everything. But after school, she would wait for me behind the school just to talk to me. At 6.5 years old, there I felt betrayed. My hair was used to weaponize to get a reaction out of me. But before I dive deeper, I want to share another story with you about a time where I had just worked in an organization for some time, just moved to a new city, and it was time for my annual review. The night before, I had stayed up all night like I usually do for wash day. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Wash day means pre-poo, shampoo, deep conditioner, twist out, all of that. I know that's right. Right, so the next morning I woke up, getting ready for work, twisted out my hair, smelled like shea moisture, the coconut kind. I got called into the office for the review. My manager goes through the rubric, everything is all great, but little did I know that review was not over. She took a pause and looked at me and said, "But I need to tell you something, Christele. Everything is great, but you need to do something with your hair." As she kept talking about my hair, my body froze. I held my breath as the echo of her voice justified the reasoning for her comment. I held enough space in the air, like holding space for her while I clenched mine. I didn't quite understand why this moment happened. I slowly walked back to my department where the hallway felt longer. All I could remember was me telling myself to look normal. I didn't want to start a gossip trail, you know? I felt unsafe and unprotected because once again my hair was weaponized as a threat to something. I can't assume that you've ever experienced this trauma where you didn't do anything, but what you possessed was used against you for something. In many worlds, we call it something different, like microaggression, gaslighting, passive aggressiveness, and I recently learned the term know your place aggression. It's artful, and if you blink, you actually miss it. So those two experiences, I stored them in my Christele, don't ever let them see you sweat, mental storage box. But one day, and since 2019 to be exact, my friend Tanja and I, Tanja convinced me to go to Essence because I'm an introvert. I don't do noise in crowds. But she said Michelle Obama was going to be there. And while we were there, we saw my friend Keisha, who had the inside scoop on Michelle wearing curly hair that day. Keisha was friends with the stylist, so the news that Michelle was finally wearing curly hair spread like wildflower. It was a big deal. Fast forward, while they're in true introvert fashion, I looked for introvert activities, waited for my friends to club inside while I waited for them outside, did all the things, but I finally found my introvert HQ, which was the Shea Moisture house, where I spent most of my time, and Tanja and I heard about the Crown Act for the first time. It was Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Ari Lennox, they shared about it. There, I finally mustered the strength to share that story about my boss. I had suppressed it for so long, and when I said it out loud, I realized once again my power was taken from me, not because I did anything wrong. The more I heard myself out loud, I couldn't believe how wrong that was. But I had the best affirmation to top it off. Ari Lennox listened to my story and said, "F that," Belinda. I felt seen. What I had suppressed when I felt alone came back to life. So these two stories are about Black girl magic. Sometimes there's no happily ever after in these experiences, but the lesson that I take from these two stories is, as a 6.5-year-old, although my power was taken from me, I learned something very powerful, that the world would not be fair to a Black woman in her true magic. Thank you.
Don't touch